The night was cold and the city streets were quiet. Only the sound of broken lights and the distant hum of machines filled the air. The human, a simple man named David, walked home after a long day of work. He carried a small bag of bread and soup from a street stall, hoping to eat quickly and rest. But just as he turned into a narrow alley, he stopped. From the shadows, a sound reached his ears. It was not the usual noise of the city. It was soft, trembling, like someone crying. David's heart beat faster. He looked around. At first he saw nothing but trash and broken crates. Then the sound came again, a faint whimper. He followed the sound deeper into the alley. The lights were dim, flickering on and off, and the smell of rust and smoke filled his nose. Behind a stack of old barrels he saw two small figures huddled together. Their bodies shook with fear. Their eyes glowed faintly in the dark. David froze. They were not human. Their skin had a pale shimmer, almost silver, and their small faces had strange patterns that shifted like moving ink. Two little alien girls, no older than 8 or 9, were trapped between the barrels and a wall. Their tiny hands clutched each other tightly. Before David could speak, heavy footsteps echoed behind him. He turned quickly and saw 3 large aliens stepping into the alley. Their bodies were tall, their arms thick, and their sharp eyes scanned the dark. They carried metal rods that sparked. With blue energy, one of them growled, "Find the runaways, the reward is high." David's mind raced. He understood at once these men were hunting the girls. He glanced back at the 2 children. Their eyes pleaded with him, though they made no sound. His chest tightened. He had no weapon, no plan, and no reason to fight. For strangers, yet his feet moved on their own. He stepped in front of the barrels, blocking the girls from sight. The hunters spotted him. One shouted, "Human, step aside. This is not your concern." David's throat felt dry, but he forced his voice out. "There's no one here, just me." The aliens narrowed their eyes. They did not believe him. One of them raised his rod and walked closer. The energy hissed, sparking bright blue. David's heart pounded. He knew one hit could kill him. Still, he held his ground. "Leave," David said. His voice was shaking but firm. "You will not find anyone here." The alien stepped closer, towering over him. Then, from behind David, one of the girls let out a tiny, frightened gasp. The hunters heard it, their eyes lit with cruel excitement. "Move aside, human," the leader barked. David's body moved before his mind could think. He grabbed a broken pipe from the ground and swung it. The sudden strike caught the nearest hunter by surprise. The metal clanged against his arm, and the alien staggered back. With a growl, "Run!" David shouted to the girls. The 2 children scrambled out from the barrels, their feet tapping quickly against the ground. David bent low, blocking the path as the girls rushed past him. The hunters roared and swung their arrows. Sparks flashed. One blow missed his head by inches. The air burned with heat. David ducked, grabbed one girl's hand and pulled her close. The other girl clung to his coat. He ran as fast as he could, dragging them with him. The alley twisted left and right, shadows stretching long under the broken lamps. Behind him, the hunters shouted and chased. The girls' breaths were sharp, their small legs struggling to keep up. David lifted the younger one into his arms, ignoring the pain in his muscles. He had no idea where to go, only that he could not stop. The hunter's footsteps grew louder, closer. Finally, David saw an opening ahead, a small side street leading toward the crowded market. If he could reach it, they could disappear in the sea of people. He tightened his grip on the girls and ran with all his strength. The hunters roared one last time, their voices echoing through the night. But David did not stop. His only thought was clear. He had to protect these 2 frightened children, even if they were not human. And in that single moment, under the dim lights of the city alley, the life of one ordinary man changed forever. The crowded market was alive with noise, bright signs, and the smell of cooked food. David burst out of the dark alley with the 2 alien girls clinging to him. His lungs burned, his legs felt heavy, but he did not slow down. Behind him, the hunter's footsteps thundered, echoing like drums of danger. The younger girl in his arms hid her face against his chest, trembling. The older one ran beside him, her silver skin shining faintly under the neon lights. People turned their heads as David pushed through the crowd, but no one tried to help. They all knew trouble when they saw it. Faster, David whispered, his voice harsh with breath. He glanced back. The hunters shoved their way through the crowd. Their metal rods sparked, sending people scattering. The market filled with screams. Vendors abandoned their stalls. Food and fabrics fell to the ground. David pulled the girls into a narrow passage between two tall buildings. The air smelled of damp stone and oil. He leaned against the wall, chest heaving. The older girl tugged his sleeve, her strange eyes glowing faintly. "They will not stop," she said in a small, broken voice. Her words were mixed with alien sounds, but David understood enough. "I know," David muttered. He pressed his ear to the wall of the passage. The hunters' angry voices drew closer. Their boots hit the stone like heavy hammers. With no time to think, David pulled the girls into the back of a supply shop. The door was half open, and the smell of metal and grease filled the air. Boxes and old machines lay scattered inside. He pushed the girls behind a stack of crates and crouched beside them. "Stay quiet," he whispered. The girls nodded, their small faces pale with fear. The hunters entered the passage, their steps slow now. "Careful," one growled. "They came this way, I can smell them." David's heart pounded. He pressed his hand over the younger girl's mouth as she started to whimper. Sweat ran down his back. Every second felt like an hour. The hunters paused outside the shop. Their shadows stretched across the doorway. One of them stepped in. The floor creaked under his weight. His glowing rod hissed in the dark. David's grip tightened on the pipe he still carried. If the alien stepped too close, he would have to fight again. Then, from the other side of the street, a group of loud traders passed by. Their laughter and shouts drew the hunters' attention. The alien turned back, muttering something, and left the shop. David waited, not moving, until their voices faded into the distance. The girls slowly lifted their heads. The older one whispered, "Thank you." Her alien accent twisted the words, but David heard the truth in them. "We can't stay here," he said. "We need a safer place." He led them out the back of the shop into another twisting street. The city was like a maze. Bridges, towers, and glowing signs everywhere. David's mind raced as he searched for somewhere to hide. Finally, he spotted an abandoned transport station. Its doors hung loose, the glass cracked, dust covered the floor, but it was empty. He led the girls inside, closing the broken door behind them. The children sank onto a bench, exhausted. David leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. His hands still shook from the fear and the chase. "Why are they after you?" he asked softly. But the girls only lowered their heads, silent. For a long moment, only the hum of the city outside filled the air. Then the older girl looked up, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "Because we belong to someone powerful," she whispered, "and we ran away." David felt a chill run down his spine. He realized this was no simple rescue. By stepping in, he had entered something far bigger. The hunters would not stop, and now he was tied to their fight. The girls leaned against him, trusting him completely. David closed his eyes for a moment, already knowing there was no turning back. He would protect them, whatever it cost. And far away in the shadows of the city, the hunters sharpened their blades. Their search was far from over. The abandoned transport station gave them a few minutes of peace, but David knew it would not last. The hunters had sharp eyes and sharper instincts. They would search every corner of the city until they found the two little alien girls. David looked at their tired faces and knew they couldn't keep running all night. "Come on," he whispered. He lifted the younger girl back into his arms. Her silver skin felt cool against his own. The older girl held his coat tightly, following close as he guided them out a side door and into the quieter streets of the city. The neon lights faded as they moved into the poorer district. Here the air smelled of smoke and metal. The alleys were filled with broken pipes and leaking wires. It was the kind of place no hunter would waste time checking quickly. David hurried through twisting paths until he reached his small apartment. It wasn't much, a single room above a repair shop, with thin walls and a leaky roof. But tonight it would have to be their safe place. He unlocked the door and let the girls inside. The room was dim, lit only by a single flickering lamp. A small table sat in the middle with a half-broken chair. Beside it, a thin mattress lay in the corner, covered with a worn blanket. The girls stepped in carefully as if afraid to break something. "You'll be safe here," David said softly. He placed the younger one on the mattress. She curled up, immediately her glowing eyes blinking with exhaustion. The older girl stood silently near the table, her hands folded in front of her. David pulled out the bag of bread and soup he had bought earlier. He warmed it as best as he could on the old heater. The smell of food filled the room. He placed it before the girls. "Eat," he said. For a moment they hesitated, then hunger won. They ate quickly, their small hands shaking as they tore the bread and drank the warm soup. David watched them, his chest heavy. He had never seen children eat like that. It was clear they hadn't had a proper meal in days. When the food was gone, the younger girl gave a soft sigh and leaned against the older one, sleep pulling her down. The elder sister looked at David, her strange glowing eyes shining with quiet gratitude. "You saved us," she whispered. Her alien accent made the words sound strange but beautiful. David nodded slowly. "Anyone would have done the same," he said. Though deep down he knew, most people would have turned away. The older girl walked closer and held his hand for a moment. Her skin felt strange, almost humming with energy. "You are different," she said softly. Then she released him and sat down beside her sister. The night grew colder. The city noises faded outside the cracked window. David lay on the floor, giving the mattress to the children. He pulled his old coat over himself and stared at the ceiling. His body ached from the chase, but his mind stayed restless. Why were those hunters after them? Who were these girls running from? And why did their faces remind him of something important? Something he could not yet name? He closed his eyes, but sleep did not come easily. Just before dawn, he felt a small hand slip into his. The younger girl had crawled down from the mattress and lay beside him on the floor. Her soft voice whispered only one word. "Safe." David's heart tightened. For the first time in years, he felt a strange sense of purpose. He was no longer just a tired worker in a broken city. He was a protector, and these children trusted him completely. But in the shadows beyond his door, danger still waited. The hunters had not given up, and even more powerful eyes had begun to turn toward the human who dared to stand in their way. The weak glow of morning crept through the cracked window, painting pale lines across the small room. David sat up slowly, his muscles stiff from sleeping on the floor. The two alien girls were still curled together on the thin mattress, their silver skin glimmering faintly in the dim light. For a moment the world felt strangely quiet, but David knew silence never lasted in this city, especially after last night. He stood, rubbed his eyes, and went to check the door. It was still locked, yet scratches on the frame told him the hunters had passed by sometime in the night. His stomach tightened. They were getting closer. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. "Human." He turned. The older girl was awake, her glowing eyes fixed on him, calm but full of something he didn't expect. "Trust." She reached out, taking his rough hand in her small fingers. "You protect us?" she asked carefully. Her alien accent bent the words, but the meaning was clear. David stared at her. His throat felt dry. He had no reason to say yes. Protecting them meant danger, more running, and maybe even death. He was just a man with a small apartment and no weapons. What could he possibly do against armed hunters? But then he looked at her trembling hand holding his, and at the younger girl still asleep, her face pressed into the blanket as if it were the only safe thing in the universe. Something in his chest shifted. "Yes," David said finally. His voice was steady. "I'll protect you." The older girl blinked. Her eyes glowed brighter for a moment. She bowed her head slightly, as if sealing some kind of promise. Not long after, the younger one stirred awake. She yawned and looked around until her gaze landed on David. She crawled across the mattress, wrapping her arms around his leg like a child clinging to a parent. David froze, surprised by the sudden affection. Then he slowly rested his hand on her small head. Breakfast was simple. Just the leftover bread and water. The girls ate quietly, their sharp ears twitching at every sound outside. David tried to hide his worry, but he could feel the weight of his own words. A promise spoken was no small thing. If he failed them, he would never forgive himself. Later, he slipped outside to gather supplies, leaving the girls hidden under the blanket with strict instructions not to move until he returned. The streets were tense. Whispers about strange men with glowing weapons spread among the vendors. Everyone was too afraid to speak openly, but David caught fragments. Runaways, big reward, dangerous family. His pulse quickened. He bought a small pack of food and a flask of clean water, then hurried back to the apartment. Every step made him glance over his shoulder. He felt eyes on him, though he saw no one. When he returned, the girls rushed to him the moment the door opened. Their faces filled with relief, as if they feared he would never come back. The younger girl clung to his arm, whispering something in her alien tongue. He didn't understand, but the way she smiled told him it meant gratitude. That night, as the city grew dark again, the three of them sat close together on the floor. David told them stories in his simple human way, tales of mountains, oceans, and forests from Earth. The girls listened with wide eyes. The older one asked questions, repeating some of his words as if learning them. The younger giggled softly at his clumsy jokes. When the light finally dimmed, the older girl looked at him seriously. "If hunters come, you fight?" David nodded slowly. "I'll fight, I'll keep you safe, I promise." She reached out again, her small hand resting on his. "Then we believe you," she whispered. As the girls drifted into sleep, David sat awake for a long time. The promise weighed on him like armor, heavy but unbreakable. He was no soldier, no hero, but for these two children he would become both. And outside, in the city's hidden corners, the hunters were already preparing to strike again. This time, they would not come quietly. The night stretched long and restless. David dozed only in short bursts, always waking at the faintest sound outside his apartment. The girls slept close together on the mattress, their small hands still locked as if afraid of being torn apart. Every time David looked at them, his resolve hardened. He had made a promise he would keep it no matter what. Morning came with the smell of rain drifting through the cracked window. The city outside seemed quieter than usual. Too quiet. David's instincts stirred uneasily. He boiled water for tea and broke bread into smaller pieces for the girls' breakfast. They ate silently, their glowing eyes watching him, almost as if they sensed what was coming. Then came the knock. It was not loud, but heavy, deliberate. 3 sharp thuds against the door. David froze, his hand halfway to the teapot. The girls stiffened, their ears twitching. The older one whispered. "Not safe," David motioned for silence. He stepped carefully to the door, pressing his ear against the wood. A voice called out, deep and rough. "Open, human. We need to speak with you." His heart pounded. He had heard that tone before, the kind that carried authority and danger. He whispered to the girls, "Hide." They slid quickly under the mattress, pulling the blanket down to cover themselves. Their glowing eyes dimmed in the shadows. David gripped the broken pipe he had kept from the night before and slowly unlatched the door. Only a crack, enough to look. 3 tall figures stood outside, armored and armed, their shoulders broad, their faces marked with dark alien tattoos. Energy rods hung at their sides, crackling faintly. "Step aside," the leader said, coldly. "We're searching for 2 fugitives, little ones, silver-skinned. Have you seen them?" David forced his expression to remain calm. He shook his head. "No, I live alone, haven't seen anyone." The alien's sharp eyes studied him, his nostrils flared as if trying to catch a scent. Behind him, one of the others muttered, "The mother wants them alive, better to check every room." David's blood turned cold. Mother. His mind burned with questions, but he couldn't let them in. He shifted his body to block the doorway more firmly. "No one here," he repeated. Search somewhere else. The leader's lips curled into something between a smile and a snarl. Strange human, you smell of fear. Why guard your door so closely? He leaned forward, his gaze hard as steel. David's grip tightened on the pipe. His heart thundered. If they pushed through, he would have to fight. He knew he couldn't win, but he also knew he couldn't let them find the girls. Suddenly, a noise came from the street below. Loud shouting, vendors arguing, the crash of something heavy. The aliens glanced back, distracted for a moment. The leader growled, "We'll return." He jabbed a finger toward David. "If we find you lied, human, your blood will pay." Then they turned and walked away, their heavy boots clanging on the steps. The sound slowly faded, leaving only silence. David closed the door and locked it with shaking hands. He leaned against it, chest rising and falling. The girls crawled out from under the mattress, their faces pale. The younger one ran to him, clutching his leg. The older girl looked into his eyes, her voice soft but firm. "They will come again." David nodded, his jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready," he said. His voice held no doubt, though inside, fear gnawed at him. That night, as the city lights flickered outside, David prepared as best as he could. He moved furniture against the door, tested the windows, and kept the pipe close to his bed. The girls watched quietly, their trust in him unshaken, and as the rain began to fall harder, echoing against the thin roof, David knew this was only the beginning. Strangers had come to his door, but the true storm was yet to arrive. The rain poured heavily that night, drumming against the weak roof of David's small apartment. The sound almost covered the pounding of his own heartbeat. He sat awake, pipe resting across his knees, eyes fixed on the door. The two alien girls slept huddled together, their silver skin glowing faintly under the flickering lamp. Every shadow in the room seemed alive. Every creak of the building made his grip tighten. He had expected the hunters to return quickly, but the hours passed. Outside, the storm raged, thunder rolling over the city. Just when David started to think they might be safe until morning, the world changed. The lamp flickered once, then went out completely. The air grew heavy, thick with an energy that made the hair on his arms stand up. David's breath caught. He looked at the door and saw a soft golden light seeping through the cracks around it. Then came a knock. Different from before, it wasn't heavy or violent, but calm, steady, almost commanding. 3 slow taps, the sound echoed in his chest. The girls stirred instantly. Their eyes snapped open, fear flashing across their faces. The older one whispered one word in her alien tongue. David didn't understand, but he felt the weight of it. Her voice trembled, not with fear of hunters, but with awe. David stood, pipe in hand. He stepped carefully to the door. "Who is it?" he called, his voice rough. The answer was a woman's voice, smooth yet filled with power. "Human, open the door. I mean no harm to you." David froze. There was something in her tone that reached inside him, something that didn't ask. It commanded. Still, he hesitated. His promise to the girls burned in his mind. He turned to them. Their faces were pale, but the older one whispered, "It is her, our mother." His chest tightened. He unlatched the door and opened it slowly. The golden light flooded in. Standing in the hallway was a tall figure cloaked in flowing robes that shimmered like liquid metal. Her skin was the same silver hue as the children's, but brighter, her patterns glowing softly across her arms and face. Her eyes, deep and golden, met David's, and for a moment he forgot to breathe. The woman stepped inside gracefully. The storm outside seemed to quiet. As if bowing to her presence, the girls ran to her at once. Crying out in relief, she knelt, gathering them in her arms. Her long fingers stroked their hair as she whispered in their alien tongue. The younger one wept against her shoulder. The older held her tightly as if afraid she might vanish. David lowered the pipe, his heart pounding. This was no ordinary woman, he could feel it. The air around her pulsed with authority, with power that made even the storm seem weak. The woman looked up at him, her gaze was sharp yet not unkind. You saved my daughters, she said. Her voice filled the room like music. Few would have done what you did. David swallowed. They were in danger. I couldn't just walk away. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. And for that, you have earned more than thanks. She rose to her full height, the girls still clinging to her robes. You have earned my debt, and I always repay what is owed. David shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't done it for a reward, but he could see in her eyes that refusing her would not be simple. The woman raised her hand, and from her palm appeared a strange glowing object. It looked like a crystal, but it pulsed as though alive, casting waves of light across the walls. David felt its energy the moment he saw it. It hummed in his bones, whispering secrets he couldn't understand. This, she said, is yours. It will protect you, guide you, but it will also change your path forever. David stared at it, his breath shallow. He could feel the pull of it like it was calling only to him. He didn't know whether to take it or run from it. The girls looked between him and their mother, their glowing eyes wide with hope and fear. Outside, the storm raged again, louder than before. And in that moment, David knew his quiet life was over. The golden crystal floated in the alien woman's palm, glowing brighter with each passing moment. David felt its strange hum vibrating in his chest, almost like a heartbeat. The air around it shimmered, filling the tiny apartment with a light that chased away every shadow. David's throat went dry. He had seen many things in this city. Machines, weapons, even alien artifacts sold in back alleys, but nothing like this. This crystal felt alive, as if it were watching him, waiting for his choice. The two girls stood beside their mother, holding tightly to her robes. Their glowing eyes stared at him with both fear and hope. The younger one whispered softly in her alien tongue, then buried her face against her mother. The older sister, braver, whispered to David, "Take it, it will help you." But David didn't move. His instincts screamed at him. He was just a human worker, a man who barely made enough credits to survive. Why would someone like him deserve such a powerful gift? What price would come with it? "I don't need rewards," David said finally, his voice steady. "I only wanted them safe." The alien mother tilted her head, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. "That is why you must accept," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was something unshakable in it. "This is no payment of gold or credit. This is a bond. You saved what is most precious to me, and so I give you what is most precious in return." David shook his head. "What is it? What does it do?" The woman stepped closer, the crystal still glowing in her hand. "It is a shard of our core," she explained. "An heirloom of my people. It grants protection, knowledge, and strength beyond the reach of ordinary beings. With it, you will never walk powerless again. But," her voice grew softer, heavier, "it will also mark you. The ones who hunt my children will hunt you too. The moment you touch it, your life will never be the same." David's chest tightened. He looked down at his rough hands, still scarred, from work and the fight in the alley. A simple man's hands. He thought of the nights he had gone hungry, of the quiet loneliness of his life. He thought of the girls now, clinging to their mother with trust in their glowing eyes. He had already promised to protect them. Without this crystal, could he truly keep that promise? The silence stretched. The rain outside grew louder, hammering the roof like drums of war. Finally, David reached out slowly. His hand trembled as his fingers brushed the crystal. The moment he touched it, a surge of warmth shot through his arm. Racing into his chest, his vision blurred with light. Images flashing in his mind, stars, battles, voices speaking in alien tongues. 1,000 fragments of knowledge pressed into him at once. He staggered, gasping, his knees nearly buckled. The girls cried out, but their mother steadied him with one strong hand on his shoulder. "Breathe," she commanded. Her voice cut through the storm of visions, grounding him. The light dimmed slowly. The crystal was gone, absorbed into him. He could feel it resting, inside, pulsing in rhythm with his heart. David opened his eyes. The world sharper, sounds clearer. Even the faintest drip of rain distinct. His whole body felt different, stronger, alive. The mother watched him carefully. "Now you carry part of us," she said. "You cannot return to the life you knew. The hunters will sense it. Others will come for it, but you will not stand alone." David's hands clenched. He felt the weight of her words. Already his future had shifted. There was no way back. He looked at the girls. Their eyes glowed brighter as they smiled at him. For them, he thought. For them, I'll bear it. The alien mother inclined her head, almost like a bow. "Human, you are no longer just a bystander. You are part of this story now." And outside the window, unseen by them, shadows moved across the rooftops, watching, waiting. Their hunt had just begun.